Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Las Vegas Muslim Lifestyle. I'm here with my guest, Ainka Kamal. He's an elder in the community, a pillar in Masjid As-Sabur. Um, Give us a little brief history on how you took your Shahada, inshallah.
Oh, uh, Assalamu alaikum. I actually became interested in what I thought Islam was when I was in school in San Jose State. And so I was uh, searching for the Nation of Islam. And I had been invited out by a young brother, to the American Muslim Mission. And so I went to one of their taleems. I'm like, no, this is not what I'm looking for, right? And so when I finished school up in San Jose, I came back to Vegas in 1983. I was again looking for the Nation of Islam, and someone told me where they were having their meetings. I went to a meeting, but it wasn't the Nation of Islam, it was the American Muslim Mission.
Mm,
And I said, nope, this is not it.
mm,
And so, some time went by, um, and I was, did a little research. Hey, okay, called my cousin. She was in the nation at one time, and she told a brother, told me to call this one brother named John X, John 54X. And told me, he said, they have any meetings over here. I went over there, to this place again. I'm like, no, this is not the Nation of Islam. This is, the other people.
mm,
And so I did one more shot. And it was a little while later, brother gave me turn by turn directions on how to get to this place. And it was just when the American Muslim Mission had moved from the little building on Westlake Mead and H, or
yeah.
Westlake Mead and Revere,
Mm,
and they moved to 711 West Morgan. It was a little green house.
mm,
And when my cousin was dropping me off, and he pulled up in front of this house, so I'm giving him directions. And I'm like, man, it's these people again. I'm like, because I've gone out looking three times for the Nation of Islam, and three
yeah.
times I, ended up. I said, oh, okay, I'm gonna get it. I said, I guess this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm,
And so I uh, went in, just started sitting down, listening to their talks and learning about the religion. Um, and I think I did that for maybe about 3 or 4 months.
mm,
And then I asked the imam. His name was Muhammad Abdullah. He was the imam at that time.
mm,
And I said, well, how does a person become a Muslim? I said, you have to do what you're doing like in the church. I gotta jump up and scream and
mm.
shout. And he
What's
said,
what's
no.
the
Yeah,
criteria?
what? Yeah. He said, no. He said, you have to do take the kalima. I think he called back then. They called it kalima.
Mm,
And I'm like, well, what's that? And he said, well, you just make a declaration of faith. And I think around this time, there was about August of 1984.
mm,
So I took Shahada in August of 1984. Didn't know how to pray, didn't know how to do things like that. He set up a prayer class for me. It was me and one other brother. We went through the class. And one Sunday, he taught me how to call the Adhan. He said, call the Adhan.
mm,
And I tried to call the Adhan, cracked,
mm,
voice broke, cracked, I ended up calling the Adhan 3 times
mm,
for one prayer.
mm,
And I guess he wanted to get that nervousness out of me and stuff like that. And
mm.
then I just kept practicing and practicing. I ended up becoming the muezzin
MashaAllah.
when it was the little house. And so that was kind of like my journey into it,
Mm,
and lot of history,
mm.
going back from there.
Alhamdulillah. So I know you teach a class. You have a CCW class, which highlights our Second Amendment. And here's some of your students here. We have Sister Kalima and Sister Naja. But before they speak, I just want you to go into some of the specifics of your class and the name of your
Yeah.
class.
So what I do is I teach a concealed carry weapons permit certification class, and I got started with that back in 2020. Uh, didn't have my first official class until July 2021,
Mm,
because it was like with COVID, and they were backlogged on giving out the licenses, instructor licenses and stuff like that.
mm,
And so when I came back from overseas, I did a tour, not a tour, but a stint in Saudi Arabia for about 7 years. And when I came back, I'm like, okay, I need something to do.
mm,
And my cousin had just completed his instructor course, CCW. And I'm like, how did you do that? How did you get into that? And he told me, what to do. And so I ended up contacting NRA, got signed up for their instructor course, and went through their course. It was a 1 week course, and it's basically a handgun safety course.
Mm-hmm.
So you're teaching handgun safety first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm teaching personal protection inside and outside the home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the main criteria of it. But the main emphasis is on safety, on handgun safety, because you get a lot of people who have guns, but they don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about safety, and they do a lot of stupid stuff with them.
This is a what's called an open carry state.
Nevada is an open carry state, so meaning that as long as you don't have a felony or domestic violent conviction, you can purchase any firearm that you want uh, that's legal to purchase from a firearm store
Mm-hmm.
or a federal firearms dealer. You can purchase any of those handguns that usually going to do about a up to a 2-day background check on you,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to get your gun in 1 to 2 days. Rifles, I think the same thing. I think rifles may be a little bit longer
Mm-hmm.
uh, on that, especially what they call assault rifles. To me, it's no such thing. But long rifles,
Mm-hmm.
you might have a little longer wait on the background check. Um, but if you have a CCW,
Mm-hmm.
you've already gone through your background check
Mm-hmm.
because you have that permit in your hand, so you can actually go into any federal firearms licensed dealer or store and purchase a firearm and walk out with it that day because they've already done your background check because you have this CCWs.
CCW. I like the fact that you're empowering Muslims. Do you just teach women Muslim, or is it open to?
No, I teach everybody,
Okay.
so I don't discriminate against gender or ethnicity.
Okay.
My thing is that, but I do um, offer my services because I came up in the African American community, and I do offer my services to our people, because I see our people more than I see any other people. But like I was just out at CVS today, and I spoke with whites, Hispanics, black, everybody. I
Mm-hmm.
gave them my card, so I don't discriminate against anyone. But I encourage people and uh, to that they should really consider getting a CCW because my philosophy is it's better to have something and not need it than to need something and not have it.
Mm-hmm.
And with the uh, environmental change of Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
what we see going on now with all the sporting teams coming to
Mm-hmm.
coming to Vegas, you got an element, a negative element that's following that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have more and more drugs. Gangs are gonna probably come back. So I think it's imperative that people empower themselves, with knowledge on how to defend themselves, how to protect themselves, how to protect their family members, how to protect their homes. Because you have a lot of home invasions now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Um, my next question is directed towards the sisters, the students. How's having a gun changed your life? Has it added a sense of safety or comfort? Uh, this is I'll just direct it towards Sister Kalima first, Kalima, and then Sister
Uh,
Naja.
yes, for me, it gives me comfort because um, I had my home broken into once. I was not there, but it still was a violation of my space. So when Aika came up and was like, "Hey, you could take this class," I'm like, "Okay, good," because then at least I'll know how to handle a
Mm-hmm.
firearm and everything once I got it. So now that I have one, I carry it with me 24/7. It is with me all the time
Mm-hmm.
because I'm out by myself. I'm
Mm-hmm.
single, so I'm going shopping. I'm doing whatever it's night.
Mm-hmm.
I feel comfortable with that because Aika has taught me how to handle
Mm-hmm.
a firearm, how to keep it where it is, how to take it out, how to use it safely so that I'm not harming myself or any bystanders if
Mm-hmm.
something were to come about where I needed to use my firearm. So
Mm-hmm. Before I go to Sister Naja, I just want to. I feel safe at the masjid knowing that the sisters got my back, y'all got weapons, and the brothers
Mhm.
got it makes me feel good. So
Alhamdulillah.
inshallah, I'm gonna get my CCW too. But Sister Naja, how's it going through the course? How's it affected your life? Has it you know?
Well, the course was awesome. Thank you, Brother Aika. Because I'm former military,
Mm,
but it's been a long time, and so I needed that refresher. I couldn't just go out
mm,
and get a weapon and say, okay, I'm getting ready to have this and I know how to use it. No,
mm,
it's been a long time, and so it was a good refresher for me. I haven't gotten my CCW yet, but as soon as I get it, I do intend to go and get my weapon for protection for my own self as well as added security at the masjid.
sure.
It was asked of me to go ahead and do that,
Mm,
and so that's why I signed up for the course initially. And yes, like you, knowing that we have that security there in case
anything.
something goes
Yeah.
down, then it's a comfort and
Mm-hmm.
you feel secure. You feel yeah, you feel safe
Sure.
there
Yeah.
at the masjid, even though there's all kinds of things going on outside. I know that there are particular brothers and sisters that if something happens, we're kind of in a protected space.
Mm-hmm.
Just Brother Aika being there himself.
Mm-hmm.
When he walked out, okay, we good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now with this added security, yes, of course, you feel safer. You
Mm-hmm.
feel more relaxed being there, no matter what's going on outside. And we know that things have been going on over the past few years to make the Muslim community insecure
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like some sisters feeling like they couldn't go out and
Mm-hmm.
couldn't um, be covered and so on and so forth. And at Masjid Al Sabor, we don't have to worry about that. So
Alhamdulillah.
that's where we are.
That's good. I just want to talk about you were involved in Masjid Sabur since it was a house.
Mhm.
Uh, we can all chime in on this, but just the growth of Islam in the Vegas Valley in the last 25 years.
So
Have you,
it's been actually it's going on 40 years for me
okay.
now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, it was a little greenhouse. It was owned by the Hogarths.
Mm-hmm.
So Mabel Hogarth, who has a school named after her
Mm-hmm.
on Tonopah in Washington. Um, she was one of the first educators.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Miss Tolan, uh, African American educators, and their family owned that house, and the our community leased it from them,
Mm-hmm.
and it got to the point where we were looking for a place to buy, to own,
Mm-hmm.
and build, and we were already there. Someone had suggested to the imam, said, "Why don't you talk to Mr. Hogarth and see if he's willing to sell his property?"
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a lot that was old, that he wanted for it, and so we ended up purchasing the property from him. And uh, I want to say that was probably in like 1980, maybe 88, 89,
Mm-hmm.
that they actually purchased that property. Uh, and then, after Mike Tyson took Shahada, Mike Tyson made a sizable donation
Mm-hmm.
to the community to build, the current masjid that's there now. And but as far as like the growth, it was uh, the uniqueness about that community. It was originally Masjid Muhammad,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and they wanted Imam Wardi Muhammad was saying they want to get away from that, get away from using the name Muhammad on all the masjids, and so it was a pioneer brother in our community. His name was Sabir,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "I know they're looking to change the name." He said, "Would you please consider uh, my name, uh, the masjid being changed to my name,
To Sabur.
to Sabur?"
Yeah.
And so they looked up the attribute of Sabir, Allah's, and it was Sabur, and that's how that came about. And I don't know how much longer, because I think his health wasn't well at the time, and so I don't know how much longer he lived after they changed the name. But the name was that community was named after brother Sabir,
Alhamdulillah.
and uh, it was literally in the beginning the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to Asabur now, you see just about every ethnic group.
Mm-hmm.
You see African American, you see Asian American, you see
Mm-hmm.
Arab American, you see Caucasian American, you see just about European American, you see just about every ethnic group, and that's the way it was back then. It was primarily like African American and Pakistani because the Pakistani community was growing, but they didn't have a community yet or a mosque yet, and so everybody came there. And it was like when they came there, they didn't want to leave. So, and that was the beautiful thing about it is like, whoever came there, they
felt at home.
They felt at home. Like,
it's like that at Mecca and Medina too.
Yeah.
It's just all races of people there. So it's kind of the same feel, much of you guys have been able to go to Mecca, Medina. Same feel, Mecca, Medina, Masjid al-Sabur. But I know we work hard to try to make everybody feel inclusive in the masjid, inshallah. Did you want to talk about some of your travels overseas and the cultural differences?
Yeah, so I'm a retired firefighter training officer. My background is I'm a firefighter training officer / law enforcement because I went through training for law enforcement and when I was on the fire department in fire investigation. And while I was still working, I was taking a lot of classes through Homeland Security because I said, okay, I'm gonna be retiring here soon. What I'm gonna do after, when I'm done working. So I said, I'd like to get into consulting, emergency management consulting. I said, because that's what I do. And so I took a lot of classes, and one of the brothers from our community, Naeem Shaw, he's like from Vegas, via LA. He ended up taking his family to Saudi Arabia for an English instructor, And I said, man, I'd like to try that, because I retired. I'm just like, I ain't got nothing to do, right? And I ended up going, he sponsored me. I went to Saudi Arabia for a year, and I'm like, okay, this ain't bad. And so I did it for a year, and I'm like, all right, I had enough. But then after that year, my stepfather passed. And it left my mother financially in a real bind. And so I told him, like, I have no choice. Now I'm going to stay in Saudi Arabia, because I had to, take care of my mother. And, because my retirement at the time wasn't enough to take care of my family and my mother and, and all that. And so that's why I ended up staying in Saudi Arabia for 3 years as an English teacher. And then I met some brothers, and one happened to be from Florida. He worked for the Saudi Air Force, and he was an English teacher. And they invited me out to lunch, and they said, like, what's your background? I said, well, I'm a firefighter. They said, did you ever do any training? I said, yeah, I was a training officer for 6 years. They said, give me your CV because they need training officers for the Saudi Air Force, for their firefighters. And I ended up getting hired with them off of that, and I worked with them for 4 years until I got locked out. And but while I was there, it did afford me to be able to travel to different countries because I'm right there, and it wasn't that expensive. So I was ended up going to Ethiopia, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, South Africa, things because it was like right there. I think maybe $75 I flew from Tabuk to Egypt. I'm like, man, okay, this is I can do,
nice
get to enjoy this.
Nice.
And so you picked up the language a little bit and met different people from different cultures, and that was the thing that I like to do. I don't like going to touristy places. I hate tourist cities. I hate them. And so my thing was when I went to it, show me where the real people are. I don't want to go where people trying to sell me a little trinket or something like that. And so that was my main thing. Whenever I traveled, I always wanted to go and be around the natives.
So you was able to get a good broad sense of Muslims around them. That was good. Alhamdulillah. Sisters, any questions you want me to ask you? This is a free forum. Anything you want to get out? How did you take your shahada? Briefly, y'all. How did you take your shahada? Briefly tell your story on how you took your shahada, Sister Kalima.
Well, briefly. The short story is
because we want to hear from you for sure.
I'm trying to say
Let
it.
How did it happen? What just?
Okay,
How
so
did it
how did it happen
unfold?
is, okay, so I moved into an apartment um, complex where Yusuf and Daoud
Hmm.
lived, which was my husband Julius's best friend, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so Julius didn't want to give me any information about the dean because he didn't want me to take my shahada for him.
Mm.
So Yusuf, our Muezzin,
Hmm.
is the one who, and Dawood gave me dawa at home, and
Hmm.
then I took my shahada in their living room with their families.
Before your husband.
Before, yeah, he didn't know.
Wow.
So because he didn't want to give me any dawa,
Right.
so he didn't know. So I took my shahada, and then a couple of days later, I came home. I'm trying to pray. I'm looking crazy. So he's just like, "So what are you trying to do?" I was like, "I'm trying to make my salat." He
Right.
was like, "Well, you're not doing it right." And I said, "Well, I took my shahada a couple of days ago. You
Mm.
know." He was like, "Did you really take it?" I was like, "Yeah, that's why I'm trying to pray." So that's kind of how it went. And then he went to LA and he bought me all my little
Mashallah.
Islamic gear and made sure that I had
Alhamdulillah.
everything
Yeah.
that I needed so I could, dress modest and
Mm.
yeah. So then at that point he was okay and he started
Alhamdulillah.
helping me. So
I
alhamdulillah.
missed that brother. He gave a lot of people shahada. I think it's his grandmother and things like
He
that.
did give
Yeah, I
his
missed that brother.
grandmother her shahada. She was, in the hospital, getting ready to pass away, and alhamdulillah,
Mm.
he gave her shahada, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "I really believe."
Mashallah.
Like a day or so later, she came back to him and was like, "I believe what I said,"
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
confirm that I really took my shahada.
Right.
This was not just lip service.
That's
So,
awesome.
may he
Mhm.
be, rewarded.
I mean,
I mean,
For that.
I mean,
and you, sister, how
I
did you take your
okay.
shahada?
My shahada was a journey,
Mhm.
or my Islam was a journey.
Come on.
Is a journey.
Mm.
Um, Around 1995, I found myself to be in, uh, I would say, the lowest point of my life,
Okay.
and I didn't know exactly. I had already left Christianity because I knew it wasn't the truth, and so I wasn't practicing a religion formally. Um, and my best friend in California belonged to, well, her husband, I should say, excuse me, excuse me, her husband belonged to the Morris Science Temple
Mm.
of America.
That's what my parents are. They out
Yeah,
of that. Yeah.
are they still?
Not my dad is, but that's how I got my name. I didn't have to change my name. They was
Ah,
into that, but
right. So they belong to the Morris Science Temple, and excuse me, I can't say
I
give me
would
some
offer you
water
some
because I'm
water. Right,
fasting.
right, right.
Okay, um, so she, my best friend, with the encouragement of her husband, they're my best friends, so they knew everything that was going on with me.
Mm.
They sent me their Quran.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it looked like,
Mm-hmm.
Seven
Do it the
the
stars.
little
circle
book.
seven, circle
Seven
seven.
stars.
And
Mm-hmm.
so they sent me the Quran and told me to concentrate on chapter 21, but to read it throughout. And after I did that, and after I did all of that, I drove down to California to become a Muslim.
Mm.
I thought. So I drove all the way down to California and I took my oath to become a Muslim more. And they gave me my little nationality card. And I went back to Vegas where I was at the
Mm.
time. And I lived off of Vegas Valley near Lamb.
Mm.
And so I said, okay, I'm Muslim now. So I'm going to go and pray with the Muslims.
Mm.
So there was the masjid right down the street,
So,
Jamia.
oh, Jam. Okay.
Jamia.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down to Jamia and I walked in all proud with my turban on with the pin in the front. Islam, Islam.
Mm.
And everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
Mm.
I said, Islam. And they said, Sister, what are you talking about? I said, oh, you don't know? They said, what is that on your head? It was the crescent and star, and it said Allah. I said, you don't know what this is?
Mm.
And so they said, no, sister, we don't know what that is. And so they said, well, come sit with us.
Mm.
So I sat with them and, of course, felt all out of place. And what they were talking about, I wasn't familiar with.
Mm.
And so one sister told me to go upstairs to see another brother who happened to be Brother Mujahid Ramadan.
Mm.
And when I went to go and see him, he explained to me. He says, "Well, sister, I know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're gonna end up having to make a choice."
Mm.
So he gave me my first Quran
Mashallah.
and a rug and told me to read the Quran.
Mm.
So I went back and I read the Quran for a couple of weeks, and then I went back, and the sisters just cold shoulder all the way.
Mm.
But um, brother Abdulaziz Adabar was
Mm-hmm.
there, and he called me over, and him and his wife just kind of uh, schooled me.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me, they said, we think that you'll, after, a couple of sessions, it was a couple of Sundays, they said, I think you'll feel more comfortable at this other masjid
Mm.
down the street, down
Mm-hmm.
the way. And so I said, okay, well, tell me where it is. And they gave me the address to the little greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the first person I met was Brother Rashid,
Willie
and
Rashid.
Willie Rashid,
Mashallah.
and he welcomed me in, and didn't realize that I was different, didn't treat me like I was different or
Wow.
anything. And he says, "You want to learn Arabic? I'll
Mm.
teach you some Arabic." And
That's
and he told me the days of the week to go to the masjid and so on and so forth. So I said, okay. And I've been at Masjid Al Sabor
ever since.
ever since.
Mashallah.
And it's just been a growth. My daughter was 5, my son was 3, and so they were able to grow up in the
Mm.
masjid. A lot of guys. So
Mm.
Demir is steadfast there. My daughter is maybe,
Mm.
but she's not denounced or anything. She's striving.
Alhamdulillah.
But now we have the progeny,
Yeah.
the grandchildren that are coming up in the
Mm-hmm.
masjid as well, and it makes me very happy. And
Mm.
and one thing about Masjid Al Sabor is they are, as you said, very welcoming.
I seen your grandson. He was directing traffic.
Yeah.
He had the light. Red Beard Sadiq had him out there. He's training him. He was doing like this.
Yeah,
He's on it, man.
he loves the masjid.
Nah, he's
He
on it.
loves it, and so it's alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I've grown up. I call myself growing up in the masjid,
Mm.
and I've gone through a whole lot of jihads, personal jihads there, but the masjid has always been home.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I left for a few years and I've come back, I came back to home.
Mm-hmm.
And so with all of its, Masjid Al-Sabor has always had its challenges. It still has its challenges, but just like with our own family,
Mm.
that's family.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have cousins that are a little crazy. We have
Mm-hmm.
aunts and uncles that are a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's family.
Yes.
Well, that's Masjid Al-Sabor for me, and there'll always be family. And I'm so glad I came back to a place that was very welcoming.
Alhamdulillah.
And I'm glad that my grandchildren are also able to experience that type of what's the word I'm going to look for?
Family.
Yeah,
Togetherness,
I guess
cohesiveness.
support and the love,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
kind of love, because not every masjid across the country gives it to you like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Masjid Al Sabor is very unique in how they welcome you and love you and embrace you, and just let you grow at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So alhamdulillah, it's been a good experience. 27 years.
I'm not gonna hold you. I know everybody's fasting. I end the session with Wa Asr, but I just wanted to, for the viewers, AK.
Tactical LLC. So if you're interested in going through the CCW course, you can email me at aktacticalllc@gmail.com, or you can text me at 702-978-9568. I run a special that if one person brings 4 other people with them, I'll waive that first person's fees.
Okay.
And all I ask is that you have your own firearm and at least 30 rounds of ammunition. Also, we do like combative stuff. I do 6th degree, 6 Dan black belt.
You're a black belt. That's right.
Full circle jiu-jitsu.
Yes, sir.
And I train under Shihan. We call him Shihan Okoyoshi, Rahim El Amin. He's out of the Bronx, New York. But he's been here for almost 40 years, 30 some years. And so I trained under him, directly under him for about 30 years, still training under him.
Mm.
And so we do, defensive tactics, self-defense. And, like I say, once you take your CCW course through me, I add you to my Onyx
Mm-hmm.
gun club for men and women. And so right now we're looking at, maybe after Ramadan, we're going to schedule a time where we, as a group, go out to a designated area and we do some shooting, drills and stuff like that, because certain things you can and cannot do at a closed gun range, at an indoor gun range. It's like you very, very limited. And so that's why we'll go out into the desert and certain places where we can kind of, loosen up a little bit, get down on the ground and wrestle and stuff like that. And,
Thank you. I thank you for your time, all
Yeah,
of
I
you guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you. My
Thank
family.
you.
You guys are my family. Thank you for coming. It's Ramadan. We'll end with Wal Asr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, man. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Visit umtmshopping.com for great quality and excellent prices on women's clothes, men's clothes, baby clothes, and children's toys, electronics, and much more. Visit us now at umtmshopping.com.